He said, your father was framed, my husband was the principal witness, and I can get your father out of prison. I said, okay, Eleanor, that's all I want. I don't want you to lie. I want you to tell the truth. You know, I knew exactly what to say at that point, even at 20 years old. And this started a 7-month relationship. When I mean relationship, is I basically had to babysit for her, because she told me that night, she says, listen, if my husband finds out about this, he'll kill me. And if the FBI knows that I'm helping you, they'll hurt me. I'll be in trouble on both ends. So you got to be responsible for my protection and my welfare. I said, no problem. Now, let me tell you the backstory on this. Her husband, John Cordero, and her got into an argument at one point. This was prior to this. And she had said, I'm going to blow the whistle on you. I'm going to tell everybody that you framed Franzese and all of that. Well, they were allegedly in an apartment when this happened, and he got so angry with her. This is not a, you know, he's a maniac, that he took an axe and he started hitting her with an axe. An axe. Now, it might have been I don't know what kind of axe it was, but anyway, to the point where he gave her 2,000 stitches. And when you saw her, she had cuts here, she had cuts across her face, this and that and that. While he was hitting her with the axe, according to her, you know, and this was documented afterwards, we saw in police reports that this actually happened, he was having sex with her, and he was putting tranquilizers in her throat to clot the blood so she wouldn't die. This is the kind of maniac. Now, my father would never, ever be involved with somebody like this, because first of all, he hated junkies. He preached against drugs to me from the time I was a kid, hated anything to do with drugs. He would never be involved with somebody like this. But this is the type of woman. He had told her during this encounter that he was going someplace to sharpen the axe. He was going to come back and chop her up in little pieces. While he went out, or wherever he went to do that, she dragged herself to a phone, called 911, and the cops got there, and they arrested him. They let him go because the feds jumped in and got him released. He was never charged with that crime. You know, that's how the feds work when they're protecting somebody. And she survived. But 2,000 stitches, you could see it, right? So I have to protect her. So I rent a house. I got her there. I had to go see her every day. I'm bringing her food. At the same time, I bring her to Newsday, a guy by the name of Manny Topol, who was the reporter. And I tell Manny, this is what I got. A lot of people knew that the case against my father wasn't right, that he wouldn't be involved in bank robberies, right? And it came out later on. A lot of people believed that he was framed at the time. So I said, Manny, this is who I got. He got very interested in the story, but he said, Michael, before I do anything, we got to take her and have a lie detector test. I said, hey, go ahead. Takes her, has a lie detector test, she passes. Everything that she said about my father being framed. And remember, she drove the getaway car. She had a little daughter. Her daughter was in the back seat. That's how these guys were. The daughter was in the back seat of the car while they were robbing the bank. She was the getaway driver. So she knew everything. And she passed the lie detector test. Newsday does a whole story on her. Manny Topol, he's passed on now. But you can look it up. I mean, it's in Newsday, Eleanor Cordero, the whole thing about my dad. I think it was front page, if I'm not mistaken. I'm almost positive. There might have been 1 or 2 articles. We take her into court. She swears. We get an affidavit. We got turned down every single time. You know, the judge just, there was no way they were going to let my father out of jail, no matter what. Forget what the excuse was. We got turned down so many times, even with her. But during this time and watching her and all of this, I'll be honest with you, she made me a nervous wreck. She was a crazy woman. She wanted to get into a relationship with me and all that. And I wouldn't do it. I said, Eleanor, we can't do that. I said, because then it's going to come out on the stand that you had a relationship with me. I didn't want to, you know, demean her or insult her in any way, but there's no way in the world. You know, I remember once going to visit my father. He said, how's it going? I said, Dad, I said, not even you are worth me getting into a relationship with her as much as I love you. He laughed, you know, but it was that kind of a horrible woman. Just be honest with you, you know, horrible. And I remember one time, I'll never forget, we were in the house that I rented for her, and I'm watching the Super Bowl. This is how much time I had to spend with her, you know, between then and the time we were going to court. I'm watching the Super Bowl. I'm sitting on a chair. She comes out in kind of like a negligee, nightgown, or whatever she had on. And I pay no attention to her. And I'm sitting in the chair, and all of a sudden she comes behind me, grabs my hair as a knife to my throat. and says, you know, if you're screwing me in any way, if you're not being honest with me, I'm going to cut your throat. And I said, Eleanor, you know, I promise everything is above board. What are you talking about? You see how well we've been taking care of you. She pulls the knife away, and people, I jumped off that chair. I wanted to strangle her. I'll be honest with you. I caught myself. Like that was it for me. Another